Hello and welcome to another episode of Sessions with Coach April, where real conversations meet real solutions. I am your host, April Hogan.
And I am your co-host, Cass Wolford.
Well, she's the host too. Today, we are talking about boss moves on a budget, how to build empires with creativity instead of capital. So first, let me ask you, how are you doing today?
You know what? I see why people do crack. It's been one of those. It's been one of those weeks, actually. And I see why folks are like, you know what? I'm sick of this. I'm tired of this, Grandpa. I get it, but I'm doing good though. I'm moving forward in a positive direction. I've been listening to Kirk Franklin's new song, and just trying to operate from a place of gratitude. So I'm good. Just exhausted, but I'm good. How are you doing?
So first of all, if you have not learned, anything will come out of her mouth. We gotta love the realness, right? So I'm doing all right. I feel like I'm seeing, like you. I mean, similar to you, I had a rough, probably I want to say couple of days, maybe like a week and a half, but I see the light. So, you just push through it. That's all you can do. So, absolutely. Here we are.
Yeah. Still going.
Exactly. So let's kick things off. Remember, our topic is boss moves on a budget. Let's kick things off with the myth that you have to have big money to start your business, right? So, Cass, tell me, what are the most creative ways that entrepreneurs can flip small resources into big opportunities?
Well, one of the ways is by networking and bartering. And we've both been through this in the process of starting our businesses, multiple businesses, where we've had to do like unconventional things to get like money to get things going. I started my trucking business in the middle of COVID. Sometimes you have to find creative ways to be like, hey, I provide this service. I want to do this. Let me do this for you for free or at a discount just to get some exposure. Listen, sometimes you just got to get creative. I won't go into too much detail, but sometimes you got to get creative. I mean, there's ways that you can DoorDash, there's different ways you can leverage your time and, skills you have at your disposal in your repertoire to, how you say that, repertoire? Yeah. Just skills at your disposal to create extra money to invest in your business. I promise you don't have to be rich to get started. That is the biggest myth. You don't have to be rich.
Absolutely. So I would say first, let's address this conventional, unconventional. Got people thinking we're doing something funny for a little.
Some
change, right? But no, I will want to say that you don't always. Now, if you're one of those who want to start, and I'll use trucking company as an example. Say you want to start a trucking company. The thought is, okay, I have to have a truck, right? So how do I now pay for this expensive truck to start a trucking company? Maybe you start smaller. Maybe you say, I'm going to go into dispatching first. I'm going to logistics first. I'm going to rent a truck, right? I may rent a truck first. That's a lot cheaper than buying a truck. I'm going to partner with somebody, right? So there's always other ways around having to pay for something big. Say that you want to do something, if you have offer a service, typically if you offer a service, you typically don't have a lot of overhead because you're providing the service. So that's something that you generally don't have to have a whole lot of money to start. You just want to make sure you're legal. And then you actually know what it is how to do what it is that you're providing, right? So I feel like that whole thought that you have to have a whole lot of money, I feel like there's always a way to start somewhere to build capital. Stores, online stores, drop ship. If you don't have money to buy all this stuff, you can drop ship and you can still, provide a product, make a profit. And then with that profit, you can then grow it into something different. So are there certain industries that maybe you can't go that way, right? They don't have drop shipping for certain things, but there's always a way that you can start somewhere. I do like the fact that you said something about, bartering. Realize that there's a period for bartering. And there's a period where bartering is no longer acceptable because you got to run your business. But to start that way, that's how people get to know who you are. That's how you get to test your processes. That's how you start bringing in, some type of experience, testimonials, that type of thing. I think that's important. But there's always a way to start without having to spend a whole bunch. You may have to start a little smaller, but there's always a way to start. So
Absolutely. So what's the first step that someone can take this week to move forward without waiting for perfect conditions?
So I would say the first part is planning. And I guess people probably get tired of hearing me saying that. Plan everything. Yes, plan, right? So what is it you want to do? Like when you understand what it is you want to do, and then you find different levels of it, right? So of course, ultimately, if I want to open a bank, my goal is to have this brick and mortar building with all these tellers and bankers. And I say this because there was at one point in my life I wanted to open a bank. So tellers and bankers and branch manager and assistant branch manager and all this money in the vault, that's ideal. Like if I want to open a bank, but no, that's not necessarily. Maybe you start with a prepaid card. Maybe you partner with NetSpend. Maybe you partner with, they have other cards where you can white label a card that's already out there, and you can do that. So I use that because I wanted to use one of the most drastic situations, because a lot of people are like, well, you can't make situation of everything. You almost can. You almost can. Say you want to open a daycare. Maybe you start by getting certified and doing home daycare. Watch some kids out of your home, right? Like there's always a way to start somewhere. Even like, well, I want to be a cosmetologist, but I got to go to school. I can't afford school. Start with braiding. You don't have to have a license to braid. You know what I'm saying? Like, so there's always ways that you can start somewhere and then move up to what you ultimately want to do. So same question for you.
And that's kind of what I meant when I talked about, like, we did some unconventional things. Like, we both have run daycares out of our homes. You know what I'm saying? I started the trucking business. Like you said, he wants to do the bank. Like we've done the bake sales and we've sold, lemonade with our kids and, saying things like that. So that's what I meant by unconventional things. I promise that's what it was. So I think a first step that you can take, because the conditions are never going to be perfect unless you hit the lottery. Right? It's never going to be perfect. You're never going to have just a large sum of cash at your disposal unless you get a large windfall of money just out of nowhere. Then the conditions are perfect. But outside of that, like you said, come up with a plan. You need to budget. You need to figure out what's this look like long term, but where can I start now? You pretty much said everything that I probably would have said. And like I said, even if you don't have a large budget, you can DoorDash. I swear by DoorDashing. I did that when I first was getting started, you know what I'm saying, trying to get my business off the ground. And like I said, I got started during COVID. Do that. Barter things. Even if it's just, I don't want to say, because I know in the Black community, we typically don't have a lot of people we can go and borrow from, but borrow some money from the bank if you can, if you have the credit like that and you really want to invest in something. But if you can't borrow money from the bank, ask somebody else to invest, whether it's a family member, whatever. But there are different ways that you can just do something small to get started this week that doesn't require a lot of overhead.
Absolutely. I agree.
So when funds are tight, like I was just talking about, mindset becomes everything. And we've kind of talked about before the mindset of not just your why, but your who. So what mindset helps you when you don't have the perfect setup, but you're determined to build?
Okay. So first of all, you said it in the question, determination. Like you got to be determined. You got to be disciplined, right? Like you have to be resilient, because even if you have all the money in the world, you still are going to have to be resilient through some things. So I would say the biggest thing is just like that, not give up, right? We talked about this a little bit in in another episode, not the last one, but the one before that. Like that piece that says, hey, I'm going to try, right? And if it's meant for you to do it, even though it may not go perfect, you're going to assess whether, hey, like this is my passion, this is my purpose, and you'll find a new way. Like you'll continue to do that and you'll find a new way. And if it's not, then you'll be like, you know what? I tried. Like I am moving on to something else that wasn't for me. And that's okay as long as you continue to go. So I would say you generally never have the perfect setup, right? Even the person who gets the $1 million loan, they generally need the $1.5 million. Right? They generally need the 2 million. I don't think there's ever a point, even when I watch the TV shows, the housing shows, and it's like, we have a budget. We have a $1 million budget. It always goes over budget. It always. So I feel like with any project, you really can't project. So it's like, I feel like you never have the perfect setup. So it's just how you look at it and are able to reassess. And you have to have the mind that says, regardless, I'm going to start somewhere. Like this is as much as I have, and this is where I'm starting, and I'm going to be really good at where I'm starting. And then as I grow and I get more visibility and I learn more about my craft and people start noticing me, the next step up. I'm going to be really good at that. And I'm just going to continue to do that and eventually blow up. So
yeah. Well, I think you said something when you said, about planning, and that you can't really underestimate that. And I know this is something that you've done at every step of your income level, is like keep track of your budget and what am I spending, where is it going, and things like that. And you have notebooks where you write this stuff down. And you really can't underestimate how important that is when you're starting a business, because I know people who did get the big windfall, whether it's through, a case settlement or something, and they had this big windfall and they had an idea of, I want to do this, I want to start this business, so I'm going to invest all this money into it. And then it didn't make it past 6 months to a year because they didn't budget for how much this is going to cost. They didn't budget for, do I really need this? Or does it just look nice for me to say I got a business and I have this, but I don't really need it right now? So it's about looking at those things of, can I do without this until I get bigger? Where can I start small and save money, make the most out of where I am now? Even though I have more money at my disposal than I thought I would, what can I just do now that's small that can still get it off the ground, and then I can expand into that? Whether that's buying an office, you don't have to go and pay $3,000 a month in rent for an office. Depending on the type of business you have, just work out of your home, and you can write it off on your taxes. So why are you paying rent somewhere when you're just getting started? So that way you can say you have a secretary or somebody at the front desk, so you look more professional, but you're going to take all your phone calls over the phone anyway on Zoom calls.
Well, I tell you, that's the imposter syndrome. So I've had that for a long time. Like at the beginning, I always had to get an office, and I don't think it was just because I wanted somebody to see that I had an office. I think it was because part of me got tired of working at home. You know what I'm saying? Like working at home, and I'm at home, and then I get distracted doing other things. But really, and being in a space where it actually makes sense, right? Like I can afford it, I can allocate the money, and it's not taken away from other areas that I need it to help me grow. Then it's almost like you have to slow step. Like don't be in such a rush. You know what I'm saying? Me and Kizzy were talking about this the other day when she said, well, I don't understand why they said slow and steady wins the race, because the only reason slow and steady ran the race is because the rabbit was too stupid and laid down. I said, so true. I said, but you remember, key word, he didn't say slow ran the race. It's slow and steady, which means steady. He had a plan. The rabbit was fast, but he wasn't steady because he overexerted himself. And then he had to lay down and go to sleep. If he was fast and steady, he definitely would have won. But he was fast and not steady. The turtle was slow and steady. Steady, I'm taking that as the plan to keep on going. So as long as you got the plan, right, then even with the obstacles, like the obstacle of being slow, you overcome it, one way or the other, because you're planning for it. Because when you plan and you follow that plan, you now know how to go back and adjust as things happen, as opposed to just flying free, right? I believe I can fly. And then now you're wondering what happened to all the money.
Right.
All right. So what free or low cost resources do you wish that you would have known about before starting your business?
Honestly, that's hard to say. Because I mean, there's still stuff that I'm learning about now that I'm like, I had no idea that was available. I mean, I wish I had known about grants. I wish I had known that the government will just give you free money if you qualify for it. I mean, you're gonna have to put in effort, and you have to pay a grant writer. You know what I'm saying, or have a best friend like I do who knows how to write grants. But I mean, a lot of people, and then also because it is a process and it does take a long time to do. A lot of people are just like, oh, I ain't got time for that. I'd rather just go ahead and pay it for myself, because it does take a while. It is not something that's guaranteed that you're going to get either. But grants from the government, grants from businesses, there's small business grants. Even if you're like, well, they're only giving away $2,000, but that's $2,000 you ain't got to worry about.
Right. Exactly.
That could probably take care of 1 or 2 months of your rent. I would apply for all the grants, all the scholarships. I would even say I was still in high school to try and get a high school scholarship. I would apply for everything. I mean, as my daughter told me today, Mom, you're only 4'11". I could probably pass for one. So I would try and get all the grants, all the scholarships. What about you?
Absolutely. So definitely grants. And I do understand they're time consuming. So unless you are having someone who's writing them for you, you could be putting in a whole bunch of stuff. But also don't always look at the federal grants, the big grants. They have so many companies who award money just because you're telling your story, right? And it makes sense, or you're helping a certain type of community. So it takes some work. You got to put in some work. You got to look at your resources and all that. But there are so many. Well, right now, right? I didn't have this when I started my business. Damn it, AI. It's amazing. And you can get it for free. Like there is some sites you have to pay for if you want a certain level, but you definitely can get it for free. So AI is one. But there's even before AI, Google was my best friend. I can look up templates for anything. Like I need a template for a contract or a template for a partnership agreement or a template for an operating agreement. And generally, I'm either going to find a template that I can get for free or I'm going to find somebody else's PDF and I'm going to adjust it. So this up here, it's a free resource.
Yeah.
So use it. These on the computer, use it. The people around you in the community that you can ask who are doing the same thing, use them. You know what I'm saying? Don't use them because everybody, everyone don't like, let me get a brain dump. I hate that word, a brain dump, right? Like some people you may have to invest in getting certain knowledge, but most people don't mind at least giving you a simple start, right? They just don't want you every other day. Now you have a couple more questions. Like that doesn't work, but definitely like you use the people and the resources around you. You have the SBA who has classes all the time, right? Like you have programs like SCORE that has free classes that you can go to. You have your local chambers. And although you have to pay to be a member, some of the events you do not have to pay to go to, or you pay such a small fee, right? So you have your BNI chapters. And even if you can't afford to be in the BNI, you can still afford to go for free. You can go visit each chapter 2 times. So go visit them, get to know people, put your card out, and they need subs all the time. So asking you get to know somebody, say, hey, if you ever miss, I'll be your sub. That's connections you're making with them to pay. I know one lady who was BNI. She went to the meetings for 3 years straight and never was a member, but she volunteered her time to go and be subs when they need a sub. So there's a lot of resources. It's just you have to be creative. So that's my answer. But with that, we are going to take a quick break. So we will see you back here after these messages.
Congratulations, you're a home-based business owner. Freedom, flexibility, and your living room is HQ. It's the dream, right? But just because you work from home doesn't mean the world should know it. Your home address doesn't belong on business registrations, public records, or client invoices. At Rich Innovations, we protect your business and your privacy with our virtual mailbox services. Get a real business address, secure mail handling and digital access without ever leaving home. Separate your personal life from your business. Stay compliant, look professional, and protect your home and your brand. Your address matters. Sign up for your virtual mailbox today.
All righty. So welcome back to the show. We are now going to get into resourcefulness as power.
Awesome. So, okay. Earlier, because I'm gonna be transparent. Earlier, she took one of my questions, and then I realized
well, that wasn't necessary.
That wasn't supposed to take us out. So I was wondering, is she gonna bring us back in? So, listen, I appreciate you. We already. So anyway, resourcefulness can turn limits into leverage. We just talked about this, you guys. Using your resources, it can turn whatever you consider a limit into leverage that will help you. So, Cass, how does resourcefulness separate dreamers from doers?
And we've talked about this personally, like in other stuff that we've been doing, but it really does come down to, and like I said earlier, you said this before, who you are. It's easy to just be like, oh, well, there's no options out there, so I'm just not going to do it, and I'm just going to be done, and I'm just going to quit. It's easy to give up. It's not easy to be like, I'm going to find a way no matter what. I'm going to do this by any means necessary. And it does feel differently when you feel passionate about like it's your purpose versus when you're just trying to find your way and find something that works. It's almost like you're just throwing shit against the wall to see what sticks. And then if it sticks, you're like, okay, I'm going to do this because it stuck for a little while. But when it's your passion and you feel like this is my purpose, I have to be doing this. There's really nothing else. There's no plan B. You're going to find a way to do it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I feel like just to answer that from my perspective, how does resourcefulness separate dreamers from doers? Because it's almost like for people who are resourceful, they do find a way. I mean, I've heard people say this all the time. I could sell ice to a Eskimo, or I could sell air to a park. You know what I'm saying? Like, because you figure it out. You figure out. I saw a thing that Kobe Bryant did. I think it was Kobe Bryant. He said, everybody has their own puzzle. It might have been somebody else, y'all. I think it was Kobe. Everybody is their own puzzle, right? Like I'm not going to sell and I'm not going to do a certain thing the same way as Cass, and Cass is not going to do it the same way as I, but we both can deliver the same type of results. We just have to find out our way of doing it. Mm-hmm. If I try to do it like her, I probably am not going to be able to get it done, right? If she tries to do it like me, she's probably not going to get it done. Now we can utilize things from each other, like, oh, I like that approach that you made, or, oh, this is how you're posting, or this is how you're communicating. But ultimately, Cass is going to find her own way. I'm going to find my own way. When you figure out the way your puzzle fits together, you're going to use that and you're going to blossom. So it's not just about the resourcefulness. It's about who you are that says, hey, like, no matter what, I'm going to figure it out. Like I may take a little bit longer. I may be super quick at one thing and then a little bit longer at another, but as long as I'm like a doer is going to figure it out. And that's just period. So,
yeah. So how do you overcome the embarrassment of starting small when others look polished?
So I almost look at everything I do to be big in my head. Mm-hmm. So even like, and because I guess in my mind, there's nothing I can't do. So typically I'm kind of silent at first with it, unless y'all are in my circle, then y'all hear it and y'all probably like, oh, another thing she wants to do. But don't laugh. But no, but for people who aren't in my circle, I'm silent. I'm quiet. Like there's something that I know for a fact I want to start back in 2026. And people ask me, are you going to do it? Are you going to do it? I'm not telling anybody. My circle knows, but other people don't know. Why? Because I made a decide I don't want to do it. Number one. Number two, I want to build up to it. So that way, when I do come out, it doesn't look like, oh, she just started. No, I've been working on this for a little bit. Like y'all just didn't know I was working on it, but I've been working on this for a little bit. So typically speaking, it's not, I don't see it as an embarrassment because I'm not screaming to the world what I'm doing. I'm working in my solitude and the circle of people that are around me. And I'm telling my circle, like, hey, I don't need you, saying this, just like I wouldn't do that to, and and then when it's time to announce it, then we announce it. And when it's time to make it bigger, then we make it bigger. That's also that whole thing of like people was saying like, oh, well, I failed something. Well, because a lot of people don't see my failures because I'm not shouting what I'm doing until I'm ready to put it out. So, I mean, now my core crew, like you see me fail all the time, but outside of that, I'm not announcing a bunch of stuff. You know what I'm saying? Right. Like until it's time for me to announce it. And I'm at a point that it looks pretty, right? So what about you?
I mean, I agree with you. I mean, pretty much with everything you said. I don't know that I like the word embarrassed because, like you said, embarrassment kind of implies that everybody knows about it, right? I remember before I left Ohio, and because, like I said, even when I first started my trucking business, you know what I'm saying, I had been working up until then, and then COVID happened, and then a lot of people were like laid off, whether it was 2 weeks, a month, permanently, whatever. And we went through a period where we had been laid off, or not laid off, but our hours had been cut back to part-time. And they had told everybody, like, well, if you apply for unemployment, you'll still get it for the part-time. Well, when I went to apply, they were like, no, you can't get it. And I was like, well, why? And it was like 4 of us in the entire company who didn't get it. So I had to be resourceful. And I remember somebody asking me, like, well, what are you doing? I said, I DoorDash. And they kind of looked at me like, are you door dashing? Like, you can look at it like that all you want to. But this is not the only thing that I'm focused on either. Like, yes, I still work my job part-time, but I'm also trying to make sure I never have to worry about, you know what I'm saying, this again, like the power of somebody else to be like, nah, we're going to cut this back, or nah, we're going to, you know what I'm saying, whatever. So it's the embarrassment implies that you're shouting it, like you said, to the rooftops and everybody knows about it. But I don't think it's so much as that. I think also that's a good time when you notice other people look polished with theirs, look at where they are, look at what they've done. And that's the time to take notes. Yeah. It's not time to fill away. It's just a time to take notes. If that's where you want to be at, take notes.
And we live in a world.
Copy everything they do, but look at what they're doing and figure out how you can do it differently, but also do it better.
Right. Well, then also remember, and I'm gonna go back to imposter syndrome. You have to remember we live in a world where it's easy to make things look away, right? Something could look amazing, but then in the background, like it's chaotic, right? Yeah. Like I've seen people who got a whole lot of money, but then when I go to look at their books and look at what they're spending, it's like, what? You know what I'm saying? So, and that's not to say anything, they just haven't learned how to organize it, or they need to bring somebody else in to organize and to make that look well, right? Which is part of what we do as solutions architects. I had to make the plug real quick. So so you can't look at what it looks like all the time, right? And I don't know if you noticed when I said earlier, it's not coming out until I can make it look pretty. That doesn't mean that it's even perfect because I'm still figuring out the shit in the background, but I'm going to make sure it's good enough that I can make it look pretty, right? That means I did some work behind it. I'm not just throwing it out there. And then number, you really can't be envious of what anybody else has. Number one, you don't know what they went through. So they paid their dues, pay yours, and yours will look like yours. So yeah.
Yeah. So let's wrap with real examples of turning not enough into more than enough.
Okay. So what's the biggest misconception about building a business on a budget, in your opinion?
For me, it's that it can't be done. It's that you have to start off big, and you absolutely don't. Honestly, I think starting off small is the way to go because that's where you learn most of your mistakes, and the risk isn't as big because you don't have as much invested. Versus if I invest $1 million into something up front and then it fails really big, now I'm out of $1 million. Versus if I'm like, I got $50, I'm gonna make it work and get started with this, and then things don't go right, I'm only out of $50, but I learned the lesson. So I can still take another $50 and then restart it with that lesson learned. Versus you're gonna take a big fall with that $1 million.
Yeah.
So you don't always have to start big. It ain't always got to be. It has to be perfect before I put it out, or I got to have a whole bunch of money. Start small and start where you are. That's my best advice I can give you.
So my advice is going to be a little bit different. I'm gonna tread the other side of the water. Definitely start on a budget. I 100% agree with everything that you said. Start on a budget. What I will say though, for those people who say I'm not going to invest because the whole world is going to invest in me, you have to invest in yourself. So even though we're saying start on a budget, break the mindset that says I have this business and it's only going to run if everybody pays me. If everybody invest, I'm going to find an investor. I'm going to, and after that's not possible, but some stuff you have to come to the table with. All right. Like, and even if it's not monetary and it's physical, right? Or it's something, do not expect an investment that you're not willing to make in yourself. So my biggest misconception about building on a budget is that I'm coming in with zero. So 0 time, 0 effort, 0 money, 0 everything, right? A lot of times when people have to have a bigger budget, it's because they're paying other people to do the work, right? But if you are investing your time, your energy, your stress levels, all of that, then that compensates for that in a way, right? Like I honestly had a call with somebody earlier today and we were talking about how to keep costs low. And we were talking about, hey, like instead of paying somebody to package all this, let us package it. Like we'll get together on a weekend and we'll okay. Like that's not because the person can't afford it. It just meant like right now we're in the stage where we're trying to save money, right? So sometimes it's the effort as well as not just saying, hey, it's on a budget and I'm just not going to do anything until somebody pays me. So
yeah. So can you share a story where budget limits became a competitive advantage?
Yeah, almost every story. So I only say that because it makes you have to be innovative. So when you have to be creative, you start to figure out how to do things on your own, how to cut costs, right? Like, so if something were to happen and the company were to not be so great, you figure out how to do it without going to a company to have it done. So I would just say it creates creativity and innovation. What about you?
Yeah. I agree. Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say is you have to be creative. Sometimes it requires you to dig a little bit deeper versus if you have somebody who, like you said, might have a big budget and who can just pay for somebody else to do something else. That person's just spitting out ideas and it might be something that you've seen that's repetitive versus when you have to dig deep for it, you come up with something completely new, completely fresh because you want to stand out. You know what I'm saying? Like I remember the one time we were doing the Connect Her event here and we went to Nomads. And we did like the games and stuff, and we had everybody coming to our table, and that was so much fun. But it was also innovative. It wasn't just us standing around going, "Okay, my table." It was very last minute. We were still putting games together on the way there, but it was so much fun, and everybody had a great time. And we made some great connections at that event. And it wasn't because we didn't have the money. It was just we were trying to be like, okay, how can we do this? Well, we ain't got to pay a lot for it. It's going to be quick. It's going to be easy, but it's also going to be inviting and engaging. So it forces you to step outside of that comfort box of something that's repetitive that people have seen already, that's not that interesting, not that engaging. And it makes you use those resources of who am I? How can I sell me in this and make it where people are like the experience is unique to me? And I think that's what we did. And it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and she's being nice because part of it was because we waited till the last minute.
Well, they ain't got to know our business like that.
So before we end, we're just going to each of us are going to give a takeaway. So my takeaway, your budget doesn't define your brilliance.
Right. And every empire starts with one bold step, no matter what your bank balance is.
All right. So next week, we'll show you how morning habits fuel those bold steps in coffee, confidence, and contracts. We'll see you next week.
Bye.